Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are doing the final review of the Vinegar Syndrome August 2022 package. Actually, I think it's the July package. The final movie that I am discussing is, of course, this mega pack of just one movie with 3 different cuts in it, and multiple commentary tracks, and an entire essay book, many interviews on this release. We have a whole documentary detailing the entire genre of this film's genre, which is martial arts. This is the film by Corey Yun, or Ewan, starring Cynthia Rothrock and Ewan Bu. This is the film from 1984, I believe. Righting Wrongs. This is, I said in my first Letterboxd review, I felt like it's the best movie ever while you watch it. And it's very much true, because I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, just in the last few weeks. It's mostly why it took me so long to finally do this review. There's a lot to say about it, and I'm going to try and keep it very short, because a lot of it that I originally had to say was just trivia that you can find out watching the commentary tracks or reading the supplemental material in the essay book. And I don't want to do that. I want to mostly just leave this somewhat vague in terms of the actual content, because this is a definite must-have. This might be one of my favorite releases by Vinegar Syndrome this year. There's quite a few releases of this I really like. But in my opinion, this goes up there with the film Miami Connection. This movie is so awesome, and there are many little connections that I did not know about this film. So, the first one is the fact that the main star of this film is Cynthia Rothrock. Everybody knows her. Everyone loves her. She's great in everything she's in. And honestly, this is probably the first time that I saw her in a movie. I recognize her. I know her. But originally, she was supposed to play the big baddie in this film here, Armor of God, which is a Jackie Chan movie. And he actually got injured while they were filming this. And he had to postpone the filming of this movie, and she was supposed to be the antagonist, the main one. And so instead, because she was already in Hong Kong at this point, they hired her to do this film, Righting Wrongs. And this is the outside the slip box. I took it out. Here's what the essay book looks like. It's very long, many essays. One quick thing that I'll give a little bit of a slightly lower score than I would give it is this. The second half of the essay of the film appreciation essay that director Simon Barrett, who wrote The Guest and the new Blair Witch movie, which I know not many people like. I haven't seen it and I never will, but he gives a really nice essay all about his appreciation for this film. And the second half of the essay is written in black coloring on a dark blue background. And I could not finish reading it at all. So I don't know what's in the second half of the essay, but it was hurting my eyes quite a bit by the end of it. But just to get out of the way, what I think of this movie, if you haven't realized already, is that I love this one. This was a new movie for me. I'd never seen it. I knew Cynthia Rothrock. I've seen many Yuan Bu films. I'm a big fan of Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan and Yuan Bu, who were all part of the same opera school that they all grew up in and had 10-year contracts with. But I said that while you're watching the movie, it definitely feels like the best movie ever. It's very much like Evil Dead 2 or Tampopo, I think, has a really similar feel. Killer Condom even has that feeling where after you finish it, you don't think it's the best movie ever. But while you are watching it, it very much is the best movie ever. And nothing else matters when you're watching this movie. The fights are absolutely amazing. The dialogue is hilarious, humorous. It is so much fun. Everything in this movie, the stunts are insane. The Ewan Boo, towards the end of the film, rides on a airplane and then lets go. And I know technically it's not actually him, but for a lot of the scene, it is him on the side of an airplane while it's, flying around, flipping, and doing all of that. So there's some crazy shit in this movie. But that's the original cut, the Hong Kong cut. There's another cut of the movie that was created a few weeks later after they had a big screening, I guess, doing a little test audience screening to where you can start doing reviews and getting the word out there that there's a new movie coming. And the ending of the original cut is very dismal. I personally love it, but people hated it so much they went back and they refilmed it and made it happy. And it's still not as happy as what I think audiences want. But I watched the Hong Kong cut with the commentary track with, oh my gosh, I had the names in my head as I was saying it, but it is Mike Lita and Arnie Venema. And Mike Lita is somebody who is very knowledgeable in martial arts films and Asian cinema in general. I follow him on Instagram, and he's always posting really fascinating behind-the-scene pictures and just really cool pictures in general of him and another star of these type of films. But those two are great in the commentary tracks. I said it just felt like two British guys just shooting the shit the entire time while also being very informative of all the cast members, talking about the origins, what led them to making this movie, all the way to the end of their career. And they do that with most of the actors in this movie. They pointed out a lot of action stars who I did not even realize was in the movie, such as our main awesome guy, Fan Su Wong, who we all know and love. He is the main star in this great film, Ricky-O, Story of Ricky. I've seen this many times now throughout my film courses, and now that I own it, rewatching it over and over again. But he's in this film, Riding Longs, as a quite young, I don't even know what his character is in the movie, but he's helping solve crimes with our main characters. But accidentally backed out. One of the actors in this movie was originally the main character of the Bruce Lee film The Big Boss, which is what propelled Bruce Lee into kind of the global consciousness. And apparently Bruce Lee showed up and just sort of took over the production. And this is supposedly a very famous story in the martial arts genre. And they call him the unluckiest actor in the world, is what Mike Lita and our other commentator was joking about, because this guy was already signed on to be the main character of this film, and he got booted to like antagonist or side character because Bruce Lee showed up and was really just charismatic, knew exactly what to do. He's a really great sort of actor who is very I guess, productive and steps to kind of steps forward most of the time as the leader of the production. They talked about that for quite a while, but there's a scene where Yuan Bu goes down the building. He's like rappelling off a building, and there's lots of glass, and there's one shot as they go from the top of the building when he jumps and goes all the way down. And apparently during that scene, they had a prop car that wasn't even usable in a parking space, sort of just as background dressing or window dressing. And a cop showed up and gave that car a ticket for illegally parking, although it wasn't really parked, and it was at 2 a.m. in the morning. Nobody was around. And they said that they had to go and pay it, and said it was probably the most frustrating experience that they had behind the scenes. But another Bruce Lee connection in this film, I didn't get the name down, but a stuntman for, I think, the main stuntman of Bruce Lee was one of the gangsters in the car chase scene, which is very famous. I really enjoy that scene. Yuan Bu is jumping all over the place. Everyone's trying to hit him with the car, and he is just being the coolest stunt person ever and just doing whatever. I mean, he's just... A lot of the stunts that he does in the scene could kill him, and it's a shock that he's even is still alive. I believe he's still alive, but the director Yuan, who has a couple scenes. He's the son of the police chief of the department that Cynthia Rothrock is with, and Yuan Bu. And apparently he is part of this group called the Seven Little Fortunes, which I've heard of a few times. They have a whole essay about it. And I think it's this release, actually. It's not in the Robotrix, which is what I was showing, but in the Armor of God release, they have a great essay all about Jackie Chan's history as a stunt person. And in that, they mention the Seven Little Fortunes, and who they are basically an acting troupe from the China Drama Academy, and a lot of very famous people in Hong Kong were part of this troupe. So you have people like Jackie Chan, you have Sammo Hung, Yuan Bu, and Corey Yuen. 4 people. 5. 4 people total. And all of them had their own particular strength, which is what Simon Barrett talks about in the essays, in his essay that he wrote. And Jackie Chan was very much the humor type of guy. Sammo Hung was more sort of the... I don't know how they described him in the essay, but they sort of described Sammo Hung as more silly humor, and Jackie Chan was a lot more sort of situational humor, where he was more like Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin. And Jackie Chan, I think, talks about this, and oh my gosh, I think it was in the documentary that was included in this release, because Jackie Chan is interviewed for that documentary from the 1990, I think it was filmed. And he talks about how his main inspiration before he became an actor was Charlie Chaplin and Fred Astaire, for example. All these physical comedies or comedians doing really wacky things. But they also explain the difference between the happy recut of the film and the original cut, which a lot of people don't like, as I said earlier. And I saw that ending. I saw the happy one, and I did not like it really at all. I understand why they had to make it, but I think they should have just stuck to the guns with the depressing ending. But so that's that for that particular and specific commentary track. Next, I'm going to talk about the one with Cynthia Rothrock, who, if you don't know who she is, there she is, big on the cover, and there she is again, kind of in the middle here. Oh, other finger, right here. This one was newly recorded, recorded this year, I guess, but she discusses how she was hired onto Golden Harvest, because this is not a Shaw Brothers film, as one may know, but a lot of people from Shaw Brothers were involved in this. And she talks about how she was originally supposed to be an Armor of God, and then she got hired on, and then Jackie Chan got injured, and so she got moved to Righting Wrongs. And apparently, she was found because she was a big martial artist, the second best in her class. Number one was, of course, Karen Shepard, who she fought in this movie. And she has a lot of really fun stories about that. But Sammo Hung used to send people to these competitions where they would decide who the best martial artist of each class and style was. And Sammo Hung had sent somebody and was like, hey, I want her. And Sammo Hung met with her and talked with her through a translator, and she was hired on. And so she was going to be the original antagonist. Jackie Chan injured himself, so she got moved to this new production, which was Yuen Bu's, one of his first movies. And this was Corey Yuen's, I want to say, first movie that he directed. Maybe his second, but she talked about with Brad Henderson, who is the CEO of Vinegar Syndrome, who, if you ever want hints about later releases, go follow him on Twitter, because he drops a lot of hints, and people can usually figure it out. But he was asking her about the dialogue, because she does not speak Chinese or Mandarin or Cantonese, and she said that, yeah, none of the dialogue was recorded on set. It's just like a Giallo film, basically, because they would not record any dialogue, but they would record the ambient background noise, such as the crowd, or when a car would explode, they didn't use any fake audio sort of samplings. But for the dialogue, they would record it later, and they would just have people record it as is from the script, whether it was in English or in Cantonese. English mostly for Cynthia Rothrock. And she talked about how it was really bizarre, because Chinese and English are very different languages. Chinese has a lot of specific characters in the words, and Cynthia Rothrock would sort of count in her head how many syllables in Chinese that her lines were, and she would try to mouth her, or move her mouth in a way that while she was speaking English, it could be more easily dubbed in Chinese by having 7 major mouth movements for each syllable. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. I did not even know that sort of Chinese cinema did not record on-set audio for dialogue. And so that was just a fun little connection to the Giallo genre, because Giallo doesn't really record anything. It's a really fascinating kind of Frankenstein's monster in terms of its audio in that genre. But one thing that surprised me that she talked about was sort of the idea of rehearsals for this genre of martial arts in Hong Kong, and how it was non-existent. You did not rehearse for specific parts. You were chosen because you were just the best martial artist in that particular style. So during the audio commentary with her, she talked a lot about all these different stars who you would never really know unless you already knew of them. So there were quite a few people where she was like, oh yeah, that's this person, who I may recognize in other movies, but once she started to explain sort of that process of how they got actors and actresses onto the shoot and how they were even hired for the job, it was just really interesting. I had no idea that's how they worked, and it really makes sense now because they have so many world famous stars in these type of movies, and it's because they are the best, so it works out really well. But I really more recommend that audio commentary more than the other one, because the one with Mike Lita is very informative, but the one with Cynthia Rothrock is more laid back and fun to listen to. I really enjoyed listening to the non-Cynthia Rothrock one, the new one at least. But I think Cynthia Rothrock's 2022 commentary was just really funny. She had a lot of great anecdotes to talk about in regards to this movie. But I also watched the new not really new, but newly released on disc, the Best of the Martial Arts Films documentary. That's what it's called. It's a little clunky, but basically it's a highlight reel of many different martial art movies, peppered with a history of martial arts as a whole, not just movies. But it's narrated by John Saxon, who, if you don't know, is a huge character actor in a lot of American films, such as the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and he was also in, I believe, The Big Boss or Enter the Dragon. He's in Enter the Dragon, and he fights against Bruce Lee towards the end during the tournament. And he obviously has a lot of appreciation for these movies. I feel like while I was watching it, I felt like he wanted to say more. He wanted to just kind of do his own thing, but he was very obviously reading a script, a very basic script that said, like, here is Bruce Lee now fighting this person in this movie made in this year. Now watch. And it's the next 5 minutes is that particular fight. And they don't cut it, they don't edit it, nothing. They just play it. Okay, John Saxon come in for another minute, talk about something. Okay, now let's show another 5 minutes. It does that for a whole hour, maybe hour and a half. I don't know how long the documentary is, but it's quite long. And I think it's a really great documentary if you're new to this genre. I'm now to the point now where I own probably most of the big successes in the genre, such as the Jackie Chan films, Righting Wrongs, Bruce Lee films. I own almost all of his. There are a lot, but this documentary would be a good sort of intro for people to really get into the genre. But next, the final thing I'm going to talk about that I really delved into and read is the essay book. I loved this. This is exactly what an essay book should be. The first essay is called Welcome to Hollywood East, which is all about sort of the history of the Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest transitioning into the 1980s, because if you don't know the 1970s, they did hundreds of movies, and they would just hammer out so many movies in the 70s. They have an entire box set here by Arrow Video called Shawscope, which is 12 films, and they've just announced Volume 2, which has, I think, 14 or 16 movies on it. But all those films are mostly very good. Some of them are quite lower, in my opinion, in terms of quality, but they go really deep into sort of the history of that era from the 1970s into the mid 1980s. And they also frame this movie as sort of the focal point of the essay. And it's very, very detailed. This is my type of essay here. I really enjoyed it. I could actually see the words on the page because it is purple on orange. You can see that a lot better than what I'm about to show you, which is the Appreciation by Simon Barrett, which I'm sure the essay is very well written. I love the parts that I read, but it is black on dark blue, which I think later in the essay it's just absolutely insanity. I could barely read that at all. And I don't have any sort of eye conditions, or I don't have any sort of blindness either. And I had a lot of issues reading that essay. And I think if they just change the color around, maybe, black on white. That's a very extreme kind of color choice for something like this, an essay book, but anything better than black on dark blue. It's very hard to read, and I feel like I cannot really judge it fairly because of that. But I love this set. I don't really have much else to say about it. I mean, everybody has been hyped for this set. I don't know if I'll also double dip into the 88 Films edition, because that has a lot of new interviews with Cynthia Rothrock, I believe. And it also comes with a whole separate commentary track, I believe. I'm not sure what the differences are, but they're not enough for me to want to double dip on this movie. But this is a great addition to have. This has it all. It has an essay book. It has 3 different cuts of the film, 3 commentary tracks, an entire documentary with lots of interviews. So, would I have bought this if I did not have the subscription? Yes, I would have, because I'm a big fan of Cynthia Rothrock now. I've known of her for quite a while, but Boo, I've seen quite a number of movies with him, and he's great. I think he's a lot of fun. I don't think he's the best of the... I think they call themselves like the Dragon Trio or Trio of Dragons or something like that. Basically, it's Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Boo. All 3 of them. And I have always felt that he's the lesser of the three, but I think this movie kind of propelled my image of him a lot more. He always felt like a third wheel would be a better comparison, but I see now that his style of martial arts and filmmaking is totally different than what Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung do. And I definitely would buy this if I did not have the subscription. I don't know how it is in terms of if it's out of print or if they're on a standard edition, but for this release, I think I did really well. So that is Righting Wrongs by Corey Yuen from 1984, I want to say. I'll make sure this time. But 86, my bad. Okay. Either way, this movie is highly worth whatever money you spend on it. Be careful, though, because of the 88 Films edition is coming out soon. You might want to check that first, but this is a really safe option in my opinion. I'm not going to go into the, back and forths of the 88 Films edition versus the Vinegar Syndrome one, but I think this is a really great release. Probably one of the best ones of this year, I can safely say. But my voice is getting a little messed up here. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but thank you all so much for watching. And I may have another review up this week. I have quite a stack of hauls to show, but I'm still waiting for the Severin DVD sale to come in before I do a haul video. But thank you again for watching, and if you haven't already, subscribe, like the video, comment, let me know what you think of this film and this package in general, and please have a great rest of the week.